Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Chat EbT. I'm your host, Mohamed Ebrahim Tayob. Once again today, we have a phenomenal guest with us. I'm pleased to announce Inez from Taste the Movies. Inez, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. So Inez, one of the big things we want to do is obviously, look at all the different sort of businesses that people go into, all the different sort of ventures that people go into. And I think nobody screams that as much as you. And that's why I'm really glad to have you on the show today with us. So if you could just please give us a brief introduction about yourself.
So my name is Inez Essop. I'm 26 years old. I am the CEO and founder of Taste the Movie. And as of this year, I've graduated with an LLB at UNISA.
Oh, phenomenal. Wow, that's quite an achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned, obviously, that you just graduated, right? But also you mentioned, being CEO of, these various ventures. Tell us how you managed to juggle that or rather, work through that.
So I think it's essential when you're doing more than one thing that you're really passionate about to do something called time blocking. So I would not necessarily do it per hour, but I would do it per day. Mondays were solely dedicated to a specific topic, and Tuesdays were solely dedicated to a specific topic. And if something had to happen where I needed to squeeze it in between, I'd make sure that I would get that hour back in another day. So it's very, very important to allocate the time for each thing that you're going into and make sure that you're hitting those goals. So I have weekly goals, monthly goals, and then obviously yearly goals. But it's important to set down, even in the finest detail, I need to get this done by the end of the week. How am I going to do it? How many hours will that require? And also then actually following through with it. Very, very important.
That's great. I think one of the big topics that we're going to discuss a lot on this show is mindset. And I think we focus a lot on, sort of like the Muslim Indian community mindset. In saying that, I'm sure a lot of people, probably told you somewhere down the line, whether it be parents or friends or family, focus on your studies. That's the most important thing at the time. Don't try and do too many things. How did you sort of overcome those challenges?
So I was luckily blessed, or I am luckily blessed, with parents that see the value in entrepreneurship. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs from the time that they were very young. They started a company where they would trade with Turkey. So they would import and sell things. And when that stopped, my dad then reverted to law. But I think from the time we were very young, going to school, we would either listen to the Quran or my dad would make us listen to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the audiobook. Yes. So it was kind of telling us from that age that you need to free yourself and you need to be financially free, and working for someone else is unfortunately never going to guarantee you that. So even if you're maybe not making as much money as somebody else that's working for another company, you need to be able to dedicate that time to yourself. And for me, it was very easy with my parents, but obviously there were other family members that were like, oh, what's happening with your degree? You're starting to cook instead of doing your degree, comments like that. And for me, I never left my degree. So it was kind of like having a safety blanket of, okay, if this doesn't work out, I still have that to fall back on. But this is what I want to do with my time. This is how I want to spend my life. And I kind of just blocked it out, to be honest. I knew the life that I wanted to live, what I wanted to achieve and how I needed to get there. And for me, there's this saying like water off a duck's back. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't affect me. Like I just don't listen, because this other saying that if you're not living the life that I want to live, why would I take advice from you? So I really manifested that in my life. If you're not living the life that I would want to live, I don't really listen to all the negative noise. I find it very easy to block that out and just to be like, okay, this is my goal and I'm going to do what it takes to get there.
Oh, that's great. And I think that's, you touched on a topic there, was just, this might not work out, but you want to give it your all, you want to give it your 100%, and, drive it towards that success.
So I think when it comes to this might not work out, obviously everybody has that all the time. But I was watching the Lamborghini movie on how it started, and he said, well, it might not work out, but then we die trying. And that's really stood out to me, because I'm very much that person. Okay, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Let's move on. Let's find things that do work. but you're going to fail a million times, and then one thing is going to come through. And if you knew that all you had to do is fail to succeed, you'd want to fail more often.
100%. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned your company, Taste the Movies. Tell us a little bit about the, inspiration behind that, what came about it.
So Taste the Movie is a culinary experience where you eat everything you see on screen. We screen a movie like Shrek 2, Ratatouille, Harry Potter, and every time there's a food scene or something that can relate to food, we present it to you so you're eating it as you watch it. I originally saw this concept overseas, and I moved back to South Africa from living in Germany for 2.5 years. I studied German law there.
Oh, wow.
And when I came back, I found that as a young Muslim girl where there's not much to do on the weekend if you're not into clubbing and going where everyone else is going, there was nothing for me to do, especially because I was at a time in my life where I was surrounded by negative people, toxic people, and I needed some time alone. And there was no experiences where I could go read a book by myself and feel safe, or sit and eat something and enjoy it and have this experience. So I thought, I actually wanted to go to one of these experiences overseas, and then I thought, well, why don't I bring it here? So it was that passion of South Africans deserve all of these lovely things overseas as well. And we've actually had a few concepts of our own then. For instance, the F1, we're now doing themed dinners or lunches depending on when the F1
happens,
and it's about the city. So the food is dedicated to the city that the Grand Prix is hosted in.
Brilliant.
And we're branching out with Lush. We are now doing foods inspired by Lush products. Benefit Cosmetics has also contacted us. So it starts off with something where you think, okay, there's a need for something. I have a need for something. Specifically, I can't do anything on the weekends. And then you make that happen. And then from there, it grows and you discover all the different things that you can do within that space.
I really like the way you're looking at things and rather your thought process towards things. Unfortunately, in saying that, I do know that, personally, I'm somebody that struggles with a lot of, self-doubt or self-confidence. But I do know that is a really big issue in our community, right? That's a really big issue with Indians, with Muslims, but with people on the whole, to be honest. How did you find you were able to overcome that?
So I actually really suffer a lot from anxiety, and it held me back for a really long time, especially when I came back to South Africa. I think there was nothing to be anxious about, but I was just really upset, and I had knots in my tummy every day, and I was just really sad. And eventually I came to the realization that if I'm going to feel like this anyway, then I'm going to do something that counts. So starting this actually helped with my self-esteem and helped my anxiety. And there's this quote that goes, do it broke, do it scared, do it in the rain, do it alone. And I think that I live by that because I'm still scared. I'm not someone that's not afraid of failing. I am afraid. In fact, it was so bad before Taste the Movie that I used to sit in a ball and have such bad anxiety that I used to be in the fetal position in my room. Oh. And my mom used to come in and be like, are you okay, girl? And I used to be like, no, I'm panicking about this scenario that might not even ever happen in my life. And I still struggle with that a lot. I get anxious on show days. I get anxious when I have to go into a meeting. But I think the most important thing that you have to live by is if you're going to fail to succeed, then you're going to fail as many times and eventually you're going to succeed. And for me, that really just helped me because eventually everyone fails. The difference between a failure and someone who succeeds is that the person that succeeds gets back up again. 100%. So you have to understand that we're all in the same boat. Everyone is scared. You're not going to know the outcome, but you have to kind of just be like, okay, I'm going to try it anyway. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
And I think a lot of people don't sort of see that. We see the success. We see this person, found the greatest idea. But we don't look at all the steps that it took, all the failures that it took, and how many times that person, had to crawl up in a ball and think that nothing was going to happen. But it's so important. I love the way you said it, the difference between failures and success is just, successful people just keep on failing and keep on trying. 100%. I love that. You spoke about, at the beginning of the interview, your dad playing for you, rich dad, poor dad. And it's sort of built up this entrepreneurial mindset or, passion, if we could say that. How important do you think that is to the person that you are today versus, and I know, and the reason I bring it up is we're talking about mindset a lot, but I think a lot of the time, a lot of people are sort of pushed into certain roles or certain degrees in the sense of, rather than this is what you can achieve, more on the sense of this is the safest option, or this is how you can't fail. Become an accountant, you can't fail. Become a doctor, you can't fail. As opposed to saying, hey, how are we going to make you succeed? How are we going to make you, yeah, that's a very difficult route. Only 1 in 1,000 people make it. How do we make you that 1 in 1,000 people? So how do you feel that, your dad bringing that sort of culture into your home has impacted your outlook on that?
It's extremely important. I don't think I'll ever be able to thank my parents enough for the way that they raised me. It was tough at times, and I used to hate it. As a kid, I used to absolutely hate it. I'm like, all the other kids are listening to Barney or, Peter Pan, and they're doing stuff with their free time. And our dinner conversations are about money. When you're a kid, you're like, about money again. But it's extremely important, and I don't think I'd be able to do half the things that I do without the support and how my parents have raised me, and also their love. It's obviously nothing is ever just roses and sunshine. Yeah. I used to really not like listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I used to fall asleep on the way to school in the car because it was so boring to me. But there are certain things that you just subconsciously learned from it where it sets you apart. And especially when you're talking about somebody that's working for someone else and somebody that's trying to become an entrepreneur, you can see that, yes, of course it's safer to have a job, and there's all these other perks like medical aid and, maybe 10 days in the year that you get to go on holiday and not have to work. But if you look at it in the long run, you're not living your own life. You're not making your own decisions. And I think when my parents instilled that in us, it's like, if you're going to fail, you fail on your own terms. So if it's not going to work out, at least it's something that I did. Yeah. At least all of this time that I'm spending, it's working on me and improving my life. And, it's really cliche to say you only get one life. But if you think about how many days other people sit working for someone else and building somebody else's dream, it's quite insane to think, you only get this time. You can't go back 10 years and be like, I'm going to start again. I'm going to start working for someone else, or I'm going to work for myself this time. This is the time that you get. You got to make it count. And I'm a firm believer of, I want the extraordinary. I don't want to live like everyone else. I see a different vision for myself. And I think when my parents instilled that in us, it was a little bit awkward at first, when you're a kid. But now I thank them, and I can't thank them enough, because I know how many people don't have that. Mm-hmm. And it's more daunting when you don't have that kind of support or that mindset. And that's also bringing me to another point, your circle, the people that you're around. If it's not your parents, it's got to be your friends. If it's not your friends, it's got to be your family. You have to be around people that share that same vision, because everyone gets weak, everyone gets tired. I mean, the other day I phoned my friend and I was like, I really want to give up. And he's like, I put bets on you, I said that you're going to make it, and now you're telling me you want to throw it away. That's crazy. So you have to be around people that are maybe even harsh with you and be like, okay, quit, and go do whatever, 9 to 5, it's great, that suits you. And then you're like, okay, actually it doesn't suit me. Yeah.
You mentioned the contradiction of working for yourself and for other people, and how so many people are actually probably stuck, in this job, in this role. What do you say to those people? If you had to say something to those people, the people that are feeling sort of stuck and, want to jump out of it, but, safety or job security or something like that is keeping them, what would you say to those people?
I would say follow your dream. I would say that you're working for somebody else's dream, and that you are in this position because you're sitting there and you're thinking about it and you're unhappy where you are. The only thing you can do when you're unhappy is find a way to change it. So there's another thing that I always remember is like, Allah wouldn't have put that will in you if He knew you couldn't do it. Why would He give you that thirst, that knowledge, that feeling? Why would He make you uncomfortable if He didn't want you to succeed and grow? So by you not listening to that, you're doing only yourself a disservice. If you are unhappy where you are, change it. I understand that you need the security, and I don't want to be insensitive to people that need the money and need, to pay the bills at the end of the month. But how do you not know that if you do this, you're going to be able to pay the bills for the next 3 months?
Yep.
Maybe start off slowly. Maybe instead of having a weekend, which I know is difficult, but that's what it requires. Instead of taking your time off on weekends, build your business and then slowly see, okay, this is working, this is not working. When you come back from work, I know you're tired. You've worked a full day, you've woken up early. It's really tough. Work on your business. The way that your brain functions is if you keep thinking about something, the neurons develop and they find solutions. That's why you sometimes find like you're thinking about it and then suddenly, there's a decision there, there's 100%. A solution. It's because your brain, the neurons, they keep growing when you're thinking about it. So even if you're at work, do your work to the best of your ability. I'm not saying do a disservice in your work, but keep thinking about it. Keep it at the back of your mind. Keep working at it. There was a study that showed what makes people successful. And it's not genetics, it's not how much money you have, it's not what you studied, it's not how you look, it's grit. That means consistency. Every day. You're tired from work, I get it, do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes.
Yep.
Think about your business. What can you do? Team up with people.
We spoke a lot about, being an entrepreneur. Take us a little bit into the entrepreneur Inez's mindset, right? So you faced with a new venture, what sort of goes through your head? What's your process in determining this is what I want to do, or this is great for us?
So the first thing that I do is, do I believe in the product? I, as Inez, do you think there's a need for this, and do you think that it can work? If I'm already out with the first question, I don't pursue it, because 100% of your business and when you're starting a venture is you believing in it. So that's where it starts. You have to either have a passion or you have to believe in it. And if I don't believe in it, I'm out. And then secondly, I look at, is it solving a problem? Is there a market for it? Is there an audience that's going to listen to it? And then I really do delve deep into market research, establishing, what would be a reasonable price, what would it entail, how could we do it? And then I immediately partner up with marketing and branding, because those will make or break your brand. Your brand can be the most amazing thing under the sun. If you don't have a way to market it and you don't have a way to make it look good, then you're going to lose out. So I partner up with them, and we have we put together a plan on, how do we get this product out there. And then I actually use Chat EbT as my confidant, and I kind of walk them through or talk them through, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Is there any aspects that I'm missing? Please, can you calculate this for me? So I put together a full business proposal, and then I just jump in and do it. If it does fail, as I said earlier on, failure only leads you to success, and you just have to redirect yourself. So I think then you just have to jump. After you've done the research and you believe in the vision, just jump in and do it.
One of the most common questions that you get in a job interview is, where do you see yourself in 10 years, right? I'm going to flip that around a little bit, and I'm going to say, okay, if we had to go back 10 years to Inez 10 years ago, where did you see yourself in 10 years? And how do you feel about if there's any difference or where you are today?
10 years ago, I think I just graduated, and the plan was to go to Germany to study German law. I think upon first hearing this news, maybe younger Inez would be very disappointed and sad that she's not a German lawyer. But when she sees how far we've come and how this business has not just helped us financially, it's so much more than that. It's self-esteem, it's opportunities, it's waking up with zest every morning and finding that you love your job and you love the people that you work with, and you love the reactions from people when they open a box and they go, oh, this is so cool. Oh my God, I've never experienced this. I mean, maybe the wonder and the magic of the world is slowly being restored. That's how I like to think of it.
That's lovely.
And even with my collaborations and my partners, I don't think I would have ever thought, what am I doing working with Lush? Or I'm an owner, I'm a CEO of a established branches. That's crazy. How are you managing with all the stress? And I think she'd be very, very proud of the woman that I'm becoming. So all of that self-doubt, I remember as a kid, I was very scared of not having enough money and working a 9 to 5. So I think she would be extremely relieved that we don't have those problems, and that there's more to come, that every day in my career, in my profession, I find new ways. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, I thought of that. Me, I did that. Yeah. Or if you, like, a really surreal moment for me was when I was flying to Cape Town and I looked back and I was like, on a random Tuesday, I am literally making my dreams come true and I'm opening another branch. So I think she would be pleasantly surprised, and I think she'd be really proud and excited for the future.
So to our viewers out there, what would you like the message of this interview to be, and who would you like that message directed towards?
The message that I would like to put out there is, I think I've said it before, but I really believe in it. With hard work and prayer, anything is possible. You can achieve all your dreams. And the message who this would go to is anybody who feels like they're stuck, anybody who feels like, you know, I'm working hard and there's no results, or I'm unhappy with where I am, and I want to make a change. There are plenty of people like that who are scared to make the change. My answer would be, you know, take that leap, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and dream big.
And lastly, what's next? What's next for Inez? What's next for Taste the Movies? What's next for all your other ventures?
So at the moment, we've launched a few new concepts. One of them is the Sunnah Foods, where we take hadith and Quranic ayahs, and we make dishes inspired by that. Another thing that we're doing is obviously the F1 that we've touched on briefly, where we are now screening the F1 and recreating the food from that city. We're going into African storytelling, Greek mythology, and possibly expanding into newer countries and newer cities. I want to share the magic that we have with everyone, and I think that it's a unique concept that can touch people all over the world.
No, 100%. Inez, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I'm pretty sure we're going to get to do it again. So once again, thank you so much for being one of the first guests on Chat EbT. And we wish you all the success in all the future ventures that you take on.
Thank you so much for having me. And for all the people, I'm going to talk directly into the camera. Subscribe, like, follow this. As we spoke about it earlier on, you have to have a community that propels you forward and understands you. And this is where you find that community.
Thank you for joining us once again on Chat EbT. I think we had a great episode today where we discussed failing, but more importantly, failing towards success. Some great insight there. We hope you enjoyed. Please remember, as Inez said, build up this community, like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.